Good afternoon, cabbies and cabettes. My name is Sean Paul Day and you are listening to London Taxi Radio. As you can see, we are inside the studio today, which makes a bit of a change from broadcasting inside of the cab. But coming up, I'm pleased to say, I am joined by cab driver Micky Harris, who will be talking about his new venture. Now, about a month ago, you'd be forgiven for thinking, who is Micky Harris? Well, not anymore. Granted, he's only been a cab driver for a couple of years, but in that short space of time, he has become a trustee at the Taxi Charity for Military Veterans. And literally 4 or 5 weeks ago, he launched his own app for the taxi trade. Some of you might say, why another app, especially when there is half a dozen of them out there already utilising the services of taxi drivers. But it is an inalienable fact of life, isn't it, that apps aren't going anywhere unless they kind of mutate into something else. And there is room in the trade for a bespoke app for taxi drivers to get behind. The app is called Unify, and like its name, its ambition is to unify the taxi trade under its own technological umbrella, you could say. And there is a very moving, touching story that goes with it, as well as an altruistic aspect. So instead of listening to me rattle on interminably, sit back and enjoy my upcoming interview with Micky Harris.
Finally, it's here. Unify, the latest black cab app for London's taxi drivers, where all the profits go to helping our great charities. Download Unify, the driver app from Google Play or App Store.
Welcome back. Just a reminder that today I am joined by cab driver Micky Harris, who will be talking about his new venture. Hello, Micky. How are you doing? Good to see you've made the perilous journey to get here today.
Oh, no, I'm not going to bring in a Dartford River crossing. I don't normally come over the bridge.
Oh, right. Okay. Now, look, just to start, before we get into the nuts and bolts of why you were here, you was in Holland last week with a taxi charity. How
Yes.
did that go?
It went very well. I mean, we pick up some veterans and we take them to the Dutch liberation celebrations, which happen on the 4th of May every year. It just happened that this year it coincided with the coronation, so that was our day that we travelled back. But we had a brilliant time out there again. The veterans get such a lift from it when they actually get to meet each other, sit around a table, have their meals together, and you can see the difference in them, the lift that it gives them. Their shoulders are taller again. They become young men again. That's what it revives them.
I saw the pictures and the videos you posted out, and the response there is amazing, isn't it? It really is.
Yes, the Dutch people absolutely treat our veterans almost like they're royalty, even higher than that. They've said to me on the occasion that without these veterans, we would have no royalty. And I think, wow, kind of stops you dead. But the whole town come out, 500,000 people lining the streets just to clap our veterans along at the front of the parade. And they really are truly cherished out there.
It's a bit of a shame that they don't treat them the same way here.
Yes, I think there are underlying reasons for that. I mean, Holland and the whole of Europe was actually occupied for 5 years under Nazi rule, whereas the UK was never conquered, and therefore we came across as liberators. So they understood what it was like to be brutalised for 5 years under the dictatorship of the Nazis, where we never experienced that on the island as such. So I think it's the freedom that we won for others is less precious to us because we never lost it.
Yeah.
So therefore it's more precious to them because it was, if you like, taken from them by one invading army and given back to them by another invading army. And then after we'd reconquered their land, we just went, here's your land back, and we left. They have so much respect for that act and for the men that actually sacrificed their lives as well, and those that fought alongside them and were fortunate enough to come back again.
Now, you've only been a cab driver for a couple of years, but in that short space of time, you've become a trustee at the Taxi Charity for Military Veterans. How did you hear about the charity and what made you get involved in the first place?
Well, a lot of it happened during my journey of doing the knowledge. Because whilst you're doing the knowledge, you talk to many drivers. You're out on the streets, 2 o'clock in the morning, a window winds down, don't give up, mate, keep going. Or you go round the corner, game's dead. You get all of that. But and you pick up stories and you see people, and you stop and you talk, you go to the green huts for a cup of coffee or something like that, and you talk to them and you hear about the charities. And it starts to grow on you that you understand that there's a certain amount of charity that taxi drivers give to the wider community. They take the children's charities that run them down to the seaside every year. They've got the ones that take them over to Disneyland Paris for 3 days. You've got the poppy cabs where they do it on Remembrance Sunday. And you've also got the taxi charity for military veterans. So I knew, and once I'd got my badge, that I would then go looking to get involved with the charities as well.
On that point, I'll just give a shout out for the charity, because I know in September they are doing a fundraising walk, aren't they, across all of the bridges?
Yes, they are.
And I think they'll be looking for drivers to take part in that. So if you are up for that, and it promises to be a great day, then you can get in touch with Taxi Charity Brian on Twitter, or the Taxi Charity. And actually, if you want to donate as well, I know times are tough, but it's a great cause. If you want to donate, you can go to the taxicharity.org website. So will you be taking part in that?
Yes, I'll be going along there as well. I will do a few of the bridges. I won't do them all.
I mean, you look like a fit fella.
Yeah, but my back won't agree with you.
Oh, I know
I
the
walk
feeling.
so far, and then I have to pack it in and have a seat.
Yeah, I know
mean,
exactly what you're
some of the veterans
about.
we just took to Holland walked further than I did before I had to sit down.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, it's that time of life.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, they're a lot older. I mean, we had, 4 of them were over 100.
Really?
Yeah, over 100. And they're up, out. Well, you know what I mean?
Chance would be a fine thing.
That's it. We could pray that we live that long.
Now, look, you've launched your own app,
Yes.
which is a big deal, really.
Yes, it is, yes.
There's a lot of drivers out there that will say, why another app? I mean, you've got 2 big ones that are charging unreasonable fees. You've got others that are charging above the regulated TfL structure. Others that have brought in outside investors, so drivers are no longer the bottom line. What makes your app different? What's the name to begin with?
Well, first and foremost, the name Unify. That was a name that my wife came up with, but it's Unify. The idea is to try to bring all the drivers back in together. And I think that if we actually want the changes that we need to see, as you alluded to a minute ago, that we've got some of them that are charging exorbitant percentages, and that they're all trying to be less evil than the other one, but they're all kind of still doing it the wrong way. It's important to me that the drivers receive all of the money. Okay, so that's first and foremost in it. I mean, we're doing the job. We've been out 2 o'clock in the morning. We've all done the knowledge. There's no difference between any of us in this game. Like, we've all been out there and done it. And you're still out there pushing your taxi around at all hours of the morning or whenever it is. And if your job pings up, you deserve to be paid for it. The law states that you should be paid from the how. It says it for time and distance from the how. So I actually decided that that should be the basis for this, that you should be hired from the how. Now, I know some people have come up to me and they're going, should we be paying and charging for the running? But as far as I'm concerned, there is no running because you're hired. Now, there's a huge difference. If a man took you off the street and said, can we go around the corner, pick up my brother and then take him onto the station, you'd be paid for the whole journey. And that's in the philosophy that I take. What makes me different to all the others is that the drivers will receive whatever is on the meter. That will be paid to the driver. The customers are going to be charged the £2 TfL regulated booking fee that they said can be applied. And when we do all the calculations, there's more than enough money in there to run the app and to keep the app profitable so that the app can actually be maintained, pay the staff, and also slightly upgrade the app as it will need to be done. And then there will be profits on the end of that. And all of the profits that come out of the end of that will all go into the charities that the taxi drivers support throughout the whole of the Greater London area.
Well, we'll come on to that. And I know there is a very profound, moving reason behind why you set up this app. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that?
I can do, yes. If we go back to a little while previously, and we look at this app, and we do a lot of work since I qualified as a driver. I've been doing a lot of work for charity, and I found myself volunteering for a week at a time on some circumstances to take military veterans abroad. And my wife would come with me, and she actually got really into helping the taxi charity for military veterans, which is the trips that she came on with me. And she saw these old boys that were like her grandfather and like my grandfather and our parents, and it just reminded us that, and she just attached herself to them. And she was, it's really hard to say, she was more invested in them emotionally than I was. And they absolutely loved her. They adored her, the veterans that we looked after. And she was adamant that it must be possible to actually help support the other charities, these charities, because there's also the ones for children as well. And she was determined that we could do something about this. And it was kind of her idea to actually try to, if we looked at instigating and bringing a new app online, and that we could then divert the funds and the profits at the end of it and put it into the charities to support them. And we were doing this, and we were looking at it, and it was starting to build, and we were putting the app together. The name Unify didn't exist at that stage. I was still in charge of the naming it, and it was like a mixed cabs or something like that, some silly name, you know what I mean? And it was her that she said, well, we're trying to bring all the drivers together, trying to unite them all and trying to unify them all together. And then at 2:00 in the morning, you get a eureka moment, unify. And she said, what? And I woke her up, she said, I'm trying to sleep, she said, it's 2:00. And that's where the name had come from all the conversations that we'd had together doing it.
I can see this is quite an emotional subject, and rightly so. What's the name of your wife?
Barbara.
Barbara. She was very integral, like you were saying, to everything that you do. And you see this as a legacy app, don't you?
Yes, I do. I mean, as we started to put the app together and as it was coming together, I mean, she'd had a lot of control over the logo, the Unify London Taxis logo. It was her. And we were putting it together, and then unfortunately she developed stage 4 secondary breast cancer, and it became terminal. And we obviously still fought together. She was still determined to go and help out on trips as well, and she did. She came on trips, and even 5 weeks before she finally passed away, she was still out there helping veterans. But she kind of hid her illness. She would go out, and we went and had wigs made and everything as well, so she could try to carry on as normal a life as possible. She didn't want to live the cancer and all the chemotherapy treatments that she'd be going through. And sorry, when she passed away, when she did pass away last July, my world fell apart, I'll be honest with you, it really did. And this project stopped. It stopped for August, September. It was, and then slowly I got back into it in October and November and started to try and catch up with where we were, and got the developers to try and pick up the speed again. And it very much became her app. Became determined to finish it for her, not for me, for her. I know it was going to be ours, but it became hers. And in my heart, it is her app, and it always will be. So once I actually completed it, it became a legacy app for her. And this app is being given to the trade. And I mean given to the trade. No driver will ever be charged a penny to run this app, never. Okay, and it will be given to them to alleviate some of the abuses that's been taking place to the drivers, I think, over the many, many years by many, many different platforms. People just taking all the time. And she was determined it shouldn't be that way. So it's going to be given to the trade. And then I'm going to look after this app. I'm going to protect it from outside influences. It's not for sale, not in part, nor in whole to anybody. I will cherish this because it's my connection with her, and it's not going anywhere. And my son's a cab driver who I've kept out of this to a certain part, because you're never sure when you take these decisions of what sort of response that you're going to get. And when I've finished with it, or when it's finished with me, it will pass down to him, and it will be his father's and his mother's legacy, and he will cherish it as well. And there isn't anything on this planet that would prize this from us, because the money is meaningless. Okay, if someone's offering me large sums of money for this app, it's because they want to take that money back off the backs of the hard-working cabbies, and it's not happening. Okay, not on my watch. It certainly isn't anyway. And I've got a larger power to answer to when I get upstairs, I tell you. And if I do anything wrong up there, I'd have an eternity of shame. So that's not going anywhere, my friends. I'm sorry about that.
Look, this is obviously...
You'll have to give me a minute.
That's all right. That's all right. Thank you for sharing that, because it definitely wasn't easy. And this is obviously more than an app. This is obvious. That's okay.
That's all right.
That's,
Go on. Sorry.
Okay.
I thought I'd be able to hold that in.
No. Thank you. It's obviously more than an app as well. And I also think, well, I've been quite surprised by drivers here, because there is an element of app apathy out there, where drivers feel like they've been beaten by the stick a bit too much, and any other app that comes along, they think, oh, well, they will just go off and do the same thing. There's a difference as well, isn't there, between a 0% commission and a
Yes.
free app to drivers.
Yes, I mean, during the development stage of this app, when I first met the developers, they were interested in how I wanted the app to work. And I said, it's a bit hard to explain, but the apps are built on huge chunks. The first thing they want to do is, what percentage are you going to have? We don't want a percentage. They said, so you're going to do commission? And instead, I said, no, I don't want commission. He said, so you're just going to rely on advertising? I said, no, there's no advertising. He said, well, then your app will fail. That's what they was told straight from the developers. You will fail. I said, no. I said, we're going to give the drivers all of the money and we're going to charge the customers a £2 booking fee, And they did say to me, do you think they'll pay it? I said, well, they pay £5 to have a burger delivered.
Yeah.
And when they book one of these other vehicles, because it's busy, they get charged an extra £8 or an extra £15. And sometimes they're paying £30 for rides that are only £15 in cost. And they're still taking 20% off the drivers or 15% or a chunk. And it's unscrupulous in my mind.
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
I'm not going to put it on any one particular app, but I think it's the majority of it. So we won't be doing that. And they didn't really want to come and do it until they understood how we were going to, until they understood how we could make money. They weren't really interested in progressing forward with us.
Mm-hmm. They must have thought you were mad.
Yes, probably, yes. I mean, they did put their pens down at one stage and said, well, it's not going to work, until I explained the whole business model was such to them that it will come out from, the income will come from the customers and the drivers will be paid their money, and then the booking fee will be put in the other side. It's like two transactions, one that pays the driver and one transaction that goes to the company. So the drivers will never give money to the company.
Right.
Ever. Just the £2 booking fee. That's it. And that's what we can run the whole project on, that £2 booking fee. I mean, if we get inflation of 15-20%, it may be that next year I've got to go £2.10 or £2.5 or £2 for a live how, or maybe £2.50 for a pre-book. I won't know until all the data starts coming in, but they are flexible. But it will never go shooting up in the air like in massive prices, because those prices are calculated by TfL to actually protect the customer and the driver.
That's right.
That's what the meter is
Absolutely.
for. The meter's not there for us, for our benefit. It's there for the benefit of the customers and us.
That's right.
Right. So the most the customer should be paying is really the metered fare, plus, as TfL say, we can charge £2 for a booking fee.
That's
so
right.
the metered fare goes to the driver and the £2 booking fee to the app.
And it was never meant, I mean, the regulations were there, like you said, to protect the driver and the passenger. And it was never there for third parties to come in and kind of usurp that system, was it?
No, it wasn't. And in fact, they shouldn't be doing so even now. Even when you read through all the rules, it says that the driver should be hired from the how. I've not made this up. This is not new.
No, that's right.
This is what it says in the regulations, that the driver is paid for his time and distance from the how.
Yeah.
So I thought, if I'm going to set this up, I wanted to make sure that the app was legal, that it was following the rules. And it said that you can only charge £2 for a booking fee. So I'm only going to charge £2 for the booking fee. So I'm working within the TfL pricing structures, yet the drivers are going to get a lot more money, but they're not really. They're only going to get the money they've earned. I'm not giving them anything. Right? And then there's also the customers are protected from these excessive fees. I don't know where they're really coming from. I can't actually fathom it, because once I've worked out all the costs, I can't understand why they're charging such huge chunks of money.
I mean, you're absolutely right as well. To align yourself with the Hackney carriage regulations, you should be hiring from the point of acceptance.
Yes.
You know, so...
Yes.
But also, when the apps are charging these huge technological fees, it makes us look like we are not good value, doesn't it? I don't think it reflects so much on the app companies. It reflects badly on us.
I think if we start charging excessive fees above the meter, it's the driver that gets it in the neck, really, because they will go elsewhere and say, oh, you're too expensive.
Yeah, that's right.
And really, you're trying to work to the meter.
So...
In fact, as drivers, sorry, Sean,
as
drivers, we only ever work to the meter, because the app, the customer is always charged that meter as a minimum by the apps, and then they would put their booking fees on top, and they would take percentages off the driver as well. And in a way, I mean, what they were doing is charging the customers as much money as they could, and then paying the drivers as little as they can.
Yeah.
And that difference is their profit.
Yeah.
Well, I kind of turned that on its head, charged the customer the minimum amount of money and paid the driver the maximum amount of money. So I've only got a small profit. But it's still profit. And if there's profit, that profit goes into the charity box. I don't need it.
So we'll come on to that. But what has take-up been like by the drivers? I know you've concentrated at the moment by getting drivers on board, but likewise, what has the response from passengers been like?
Well, I'm going to give it both ways. Okay, I can answer this first and foremost. The drivers, I'm so proud of them. I couldn't believe it. I thought it would be a real slog, taking me many, many months. I've now already, in this 4-week period, I'm pushing 1,200 drivers already.
Brilliant.
Now, not quite at 1,200, but I'm pushing 1,200. And they've all come from word of mouth. And the customers are piling in as well. Now, I'm not pushing for customers yet because I know that an app without drivers is not an app.
That's right.
Such, because
that's the right way to go about it.
If a customer tries to book you and there's no one there, then they'll go back somewhere else, won't they, where they can get one. Likewise, it's the same for drivers as well. If there's no work on it, they'll come along, but they need to know that there are customers coming. So what I will do is I will start publishing once I go after customers. I'm not chasing customers just yet. It'll be about another 3 or 4 weeks of trying to onboard as many drivers as I can first, and then we'll be pushing for customers.
How might you go about getting customers on board? Because it's not an easy thing to do, is it? Because customers, a bit like drivers sometimes, can be set in their ways, and they probably have already the apps on their phone that they need. So to get them to make the transition to another app, how might you go about that?
Well, I think to start with, first and foremost, is that to advertise to customers is very difficult. I mean, you could say there's 6 million people in the Greater London region. To advertise to 6 million people will cost you an absolute fortune. We've got social media and things will flick in and out of that.
I think my taxi put something like 5 million aside when they first set up.
I don't have that sort of money available.
Crazy,
Okay, God forbid I ever do. But I've found that the best way to do it by far is in taxi advertising. So every driver that signs up receives a driver pack, which I post through there. I mean, you've probably seen one already. You've received yours. And that gives you a flip seat advertising material, a couple of window stickers for front and back, and also a QR code that sticks by the payment machine. And it allows you to directly advertise to the taxi users. So that's where our customers are. Our customers are in the taxis. So if I can get the advertising in the taxi, and there are 15,000 taxi drivers, 20,000 registered drivers and 15,000 vehicles at the moment. So if I can get the advertising into those vehicles, every time a customer comes in, okay, they can see that in there. The driver can ask them to download the app. There's QR codes on there. We ask them to share that social media amongst their friends as well. And word of mouth will spread it very, very quickly. I mean, that's the way that we're going to have to push this to start with, and then it will come out on social media as well. We'll get a few little clips here and there, and we'll start pushing that out, and it will reach a critical point at some stage, okay, and then it will kind of self-perpetuate itself for advertising purposes, I hope. I mean, that's the thing.
Now, you've talked about that you want this app to be a fairer deal for all, and that it's not a money-making venture, and that profits will go to certain charities. What are those charities?
Well, I've selected 6 of them at the moment, or 5 or 6. I think one's umbrellaed under one of the other ones. We've got the Taxi Charity for Military Veterans. We've got the Albany Charity. We've got the London Taxi Drivers Children's Charity. We've got the Cabbies Do Boys, who tend to go out and do lots and lots of exercise. I think they rode across the Atlantic recently.
Yeah.
They did that.
Darren, Stewart and Bob. Yeah, I think that's quite amazing. If you're talking like you can't walk to the end of the road. Can you imagine rowing across the Atlantic for 2 months?
And we got Collins about to go walking from one end of Hadrian's Wall to the other side as well. So there are those in there. I think I'll make sure I haven't missed a charity out there talking. And we've got the Poppy Cabs charity as well. I think that comes under the umbrella of the Taxi Charity for Military Veterans. And I said the Albany charity, the London Taxi, and also the
Magical Taxi Tour.
The Children's Magical Taxi Tour as well. So they're the charities that I'm mostly going to be chucking all of the money into once we get the profits.
And these are fantastic charities.
Yeah, there may be others out there, but they have to be a registered charity and they have to be run by taxi drivers. And if there's more out there that need to come on board as well, then I'll gladly add them, providing they're registered and that they're run by taxi drivers.
Well, these are all brilliant charities. And I will say the London Taxi Drivers Charity for Children, they are doing their annual outing very shortly, and they are still in need of drivers. So if you fancy doing this outing, the kids are brilliant, and it is always a good day. I think they're going to the wildlife park, which is different to what's it called, On Safari.
I'm not sure where they're going this year.
Wasn't On Safari that kids program with Christopher Biggins and Gillian Taylor fault. I don't think it is the safari park. That's
Safari
it.
park, yeah,
It's not like the safari park, so you're not going to get monkeys or animals jump all over your cabs. It is the wildlife park, and it promises to be brilliant. So if you want a good day out with these fantastic kids, then you can get in touch with the London Taxi Drivers Charity for Children.
Yeah, you can look up the number on that. They're all available on the website.
Yeah, I can put.
Or if they go onto my website, there are links to all of those charities.
Yeah,
all in there.
Now look, if people want to, or drivers want to get hold of you for more information, how do they go about doing that?
Well, the best way to do that is if there's a website available to them, unifylondon.com, and then there's a contact us sheets on there. If they've already downloaded the app, there is a contact us button on there, so they can contact through that one. And it's info@unifylondon.com, and they can just email straight in, and we will do our best to answer them immediately, as quickly as we can, obviously, but sometimes they chunk up and it takes us a few hours to get through them. But
just an advisory, if you're a driver, you may inadvertently download the passenger app. If you register your phone with that app, you might find it difficult to register with the driver app. There is a problem there.
No, there's not a problem. We deliberately set it up for security reasons, and it's one account per number, per phone, per email. And this stops people from being able to copy numbers and hack into the system. So it's actually part of the security system. You're allowed one account. So if you want to be a driver, download the driver app. If you want to be a user, a customer, you download the customer app. We are looking at procedures to allow drivers to be users as well. So, but that will come on the next big upgrade. But at the moment, it's one account. If you do inadvertently sign up to the wrong one, just drop us a line and we'll delete it for you, and then you can sign up with a real one.
And just to finish off, is there anything else you want to add? Caught me unaware on that one. I'm very proud of the drivers in general, because they've just come flocking in. All right, and we was expecting where we are now with 1,200 drivers. I was expecting that to be a year, not a month. Well, it does show there's
I had to pull over when my sister rang up and said, "Micky, you've gone over 1,000 drivers." I was just, a sob just burst out. I had to pull over. I couldn't drive. I had tears in my eyes. I had to pull over and give myself a few seconds and a few minutes.
Well, it does show there's an appetite for a new app, and an app for drivers to get behind as well, doesn't it?
Well, I think so. But and I've said it to many people that I mean, apps aren't going anywhere. I mean, as you said earlier in your introduction, I mean, they are going to be with us unless they morph into something else. But
you've got to be on that the bottom rung of the technological ladder if you're going to ascend to the second rung. Well, yes, if they change into something else.
Apps, I mean, people have been taught very well by the opposition, okay, that they can order it on their phone. Yeah. And if you're not in that phone, then they won't order you.
That's right.
And an app can save this trade, or the apps will save this trade. Okay, and protect the street howl, which is important to me, because that's why you're hiring from the howl, you see, from here, right? But it has to be the right app. And at the moment, because there's all these different apps out there, it's just proof that they're the wrong apps. Because if the right app comes along, the drivers will come. Where the drivers go, the customers will follow. That's really how it will work.
Brilliant.
So that if the drivers come into this to join this app, they just give me a few weeks to actually get the drivers on board, and then we can start onboarding the customers, because it won't take them more than that long to download the correct app and find where you are. And it will be cheaper for them to do so. So it's a win-win for us.
Yeah, brilliant. And there's absolutely no reason why drivers shouldn't join this app. It's not going to cost you anything.
Nope.
And, I think there is a place for a bespoke app for taxi drivers out there.
Yes, I think so too.
Brilliant.
And we're also going to protect the passengers as well. No excessive booking fees, just £2. That's it.
Brilliant. Thanks, Micky. That's all from me for this week. But if you need to get in touch with me, you can DM me on Twitter at London Taxi Radio or at Sean Paul Day. A quick plug for myself. I'm setting up a new channel under my own name. It will mainly be focused on social commentary. We need a bit more of that, don't we? But, the taxi trade will feature quite heavily, no doubt. So brilliant stuff. Look out for this, and we both will see you on the other side.
Okay, thank you very much, Sean. Thank you.
Thought you might say that.
London Taxi Radio, the cabby's choice.